Hey,
All
hey, hey,
right.
hey. We're
We're
live.
live.
Live on the internet. How's it
Frequent
going?
miler. Ask us anything time.
Get those questions ready. Get ready to fire them up. So, in the meantime, I got a question for you, Greg. What's going on with the new Aeroplan? Because I saw that you just posted something right before we started this live thing, but I didn't read it yet. So, tell me about it. What's going on?
Well, all right. So I was excited that Aeroplan's new program is live because I've been eager to try out some of the fancy routing rules that we think we could get great value from, like booking a flight to Australia via South Africa or vice versa, those kind of things. And unfortunately, they don't have that functionality live online yet. But one of the things I found as I was playing around, it's just totally surprised, is that awards on Air Canada's own metal are often cheaper than the award chart shows. So the award chart shows ranges. Like, so for any given distance flight, let's say within North America, it'll say, this flight, if you're flying Air Canada, will cost, I'm going to make something up because I don't remember the exacts, but let's say 10K to 15K one way. But I'm finding awards for like 8,500. And that's consistent everywhere. Like I found them flights to Europe, to Asia, to India, South America, Central America, which is considered North America within their award zones. Everywhere I looked, I found at least some examples. In fact, more often than not, I found that the awards were cheaper than expected. And it's not just economy; it's business class too. So that was good news. And
yeah. So what's the best deal? Is there something that you thought was a particularly standout deal that you found so far?
Well, so because this is limited to Air Canada's own flights, I mean, I think the best deals you're going to find are for those flying from the U.S. are going to be flights to Canada, and nothing was, none of the prices were like mind-bogglingly cheap, but it just showed, a really good option. Now for Canadians, I think they'll be very happy to find, for example, flying to Europe is cheaper than expected. So I think, for example, flying to Frankfurt, if I remember right, less than 100K round trip. So that's sort of like some of the old Aeroplan pricing, or getting close to it anyway. So, and now it's without fuel surcharges. So that's good news.
Right. And you can add a stopover for 5,000 each way, but you can't do that online. You have to call in, from what I read. So
right. It also looks like you can't book first class awards online. Like you can book business class, but I didn't see any first class showing up. So,
I mean, could it just be that there aren't any carriers operating first class cabins right now? I mean, that
it's possible.
Seems reasonable.
That's totally possible.
Yeah. Interesting. Very good. Well, I as some people may have noticed, I'm all swagged out today. So, we recently had our giveaway and I didn't win anything. I had to actually buy it, but but here I am with my frequent miler swag. So.
Right. Oh, and by the way, there's Zazzle's having a sale right now. They always have sales, but this one's interesting because it just until the end of the day today, 40% off different types of things, including mugs, like you're holding up, shirts, like you've got on. So you could actually buy that frequent miler swag for 40% off.
20% on the luggage tags, I think.
Only 20% off the luggage tag.
But 40% on a lot of the good, 40% on a lot of the good stuff, 20% on some of that. I mean, there's water bottles, there's a little bit there. I'm all swagged out over here. So
Right. So it actually brings their sort of outrageously high prices down to good prices, I think, after the 40%. Like, even if you're just out to buy a generic t-shirt somewhere, the prices it charges now with the 40% off is very reasonable, I think.
And if you were going to wear a generic t-shirt, why not wear one that says frequentmiler.com, right?
Right.
Better than a generic
All right.
t-shirt.
Are you ready to move on to
I am. Do we have some questions?
Asking us anything? We do. So I'm going to ask today, you're going to answer, so you're on the spot. First question comes from Jonathan Strange. If I receive the Amex pop-up on one application, e.g. Delta Business Gold, does this mean I'll receive it on all apps, even personal cards? Is it specific to the person or the card?
Good question. I think the person, but I don't know that. Do you know, Greg?
I would assume it's both, because it should. So if Jonathan's ever had the Delta Business Gold before, the pop-up should come up.
Right.
Whereas it might be the person when it's sort of generically coming up because of their mysterious reasons that they don't like you applying for new cards.
Right. So if you've never had that card before, that's not the reason it's popping up, then probably you're going to see the pop up on other cards. That's what we're saying, right?
I would guess so.
I would assume so. I mean, it's pretty easy to test that out because you don't have to actually finish the application to get the pop up. You just want to make sure that you don't accidentally apply for a couple of new cards like Greg did, thinking that maybe it would come up after you hit submit.
If you would like to get those cards.
Yeah, true story.
All right. Stephen has a little tip. He says, I think people have mentioned that putting spend on existing Amex cards can help get the pop-up to disappear.
Right.
So
that's the anecdotal, accepted method to get rid of the pop-up is put some spend on your other cards.
Right. Spray on some spend, rub it, and then the pop-up goes away.
Right. Seems to do it.
All right. Question 2 is from Alex. Hi, guys. Just got Citi Premier card, called and got confirmation that they offer cell phone insurance.
Oh,
as from your post suggesting that they do so. Was transferred over to cell phone benefits department. Whoa, they have a whole department just for cell phone benefits. Anyway, he said Nick's blog from today said differently.
I did, yeah. I said that the Premier didn't have it because, to my knowledge, it didn't. It's not listed anywhere in the benefits, and in fact, as I searched around, I found a number of blog posts that said that it didn't have it. So I thought that it didn't, but I am glad to be wrong on that, and I'll update the post. If you know the limits on that, let me know, because I'm particularly curious, because the Premier can be a World Elite MasterCard if they match the Prestige cell phone insurance. Because if they do, that would obviously be something really really good to know. So please pop that in, and hopefully, Carrie, working her magic behind the scenes, can let Greg know if it does match, if the coverage, and when I say the coverage, I mean the deductible of $50, and then the Prestige is $1,000 per claim, $1,500 per year. I'm curious if the Premier matches that. Then, if it does, that'd be awesome. I'm interested to make a call and find out more. Then,
yeah, Alex has a little more. He said Nick's blog from today stated that this World Elite MasterCard doesn't offer it. It seems that it does. Your mileage may vary. He suggests maybe what crazy thing will Citi do this week.
Yeah, I mean, that is good to know. So I'll have to make a call and see if I get the same answer that you did, because that's always the gamble with things like this, that you won't get the same answer twice, except that if you got transferred to the cell phone benefits department, one would think that it exists. So I would assume that was transferring you really to MasterCards. The benefits administrator would be my guess, but all right, interesting.
It'll be fun. We should try to get the cell phone benefits department on the phone right now while we're live. Put them on speaker.
Just so they can tell us that they have no idea what we're talking about.
Gary, if you could figure that out, go ahead and get them on. All right. Let's see. Next up is Greg. Not me, just in case you're wondering.
Different Greg.
It's Greg Koman. Can you apply and get the bonus for the Chase Ink Cash or Chase Ink Unlimited if you already have the card?
Yes. I didn't even need you to finish asking the question. Yes, you can get the bonus, right? I mean, it's well, if you have a different business. If you already have the card, the question was if you already have the card. So you'd have to have another business. You have to have another EIN, right?
So if you don't have another business, can you change products and apply? How long to wait after changing products?
Yes, if you don't have another business, I would assume you can change products and apply. The typical rule of thumb with Chase is to wait at least a week or two. If you can wait 3 weeks, great. Though if you can't wait that long because you're not sure, if you're going to be able to wait that long, then probably a week is enough, I think. but you want to give it enough time for the system to realize that you no longer have that card. So I usually recommend at least 2, and if you can wait 3 weeks, great. And now that said, I remember back when the Fairmont card was ending, I remember some people being able to product change and open a new Fairmont card like on the same phone call. So I know that that has worked. I tried that with a Freedom card a couple of years ago, and I couldn't get the new Freedom card that I wanted because it just hadn't cleared the system yet. So even though I tried a couple times.
I would kind of bet it with ink that would probably work though, because I mean, I remember data points from some people saying with the same business they were able to get a second inks. I don't know if that's still true.
Well, there you go.
I know I've always done it with a different business. So yeah, that's good. Of course, you have to be under 524. And of course, in case people don't know, Greg's probably bringing this up now because there's new 75K offers out for the Ink Business Unlimited and in cash. So we'll be updating our site sometime today with those offers. All right, next question is from Grant. Hey guys, have you applied for any new credit cards recently, or are you thinking of applying for any new credit cards in the near future? 2 weeks ago, I was approved for the Bank of America Alaska Airlines business credit card, Barclays Wyndham Earner Biz, and Amex Delta Gold Biz. My wife was finally approved for Chase Marriott Bonvoy Boundless after calling the reconsideration department. Thanks for the tips on the call. Oh, that's good to hear.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, because I remember you asked about that a couple weeks ago. So I'm glad that came through. Often calling the recon department once or twice can be worthwhile. It can get you what you're looking to get. So that's awesome. In terms of new cards, in my household, the last couple we added were the Alaska personal card, the Bank of America Premium Rewards, the Chase Freedom, all in the last few months. I think that with these 75K offers, we'll probably add at least an Ink Cash, maybe an Ink Cash and an Ink Business Unlimited. Those offers seem like they're you almost have to apply for those if you can, right? I mean, that's like, I don't mean to sound like the salesperson blogger that's like, you got to do this, but I mean, am I right? Like 75K, we haven't seen that on those cards, right?
No, we haven't. And, if you compare to, I don't know, what do you think? So compared to the regular Ink Business Preferred offer, which is 100K with 15K spend, this is half the spend and 3/4 the points. It does seem to me like it's worth going for sure.
For sure, and easier to get probably. We've found anecdotally that people have had an easier time getting approved for the Ink Cash and the Ink Unlimited because you don't have to get approved for as large of a credit line for these. So there's that. There's the fact that they're just darn good cards to have if you don't. And back in the day when the Ink Business Preferred had a lower spending requirement for its welcome bonus, then I would have said to go after that card and just downgrade later on to one of these. But now you're getting as good an offer as you used to be able to get on the Ink Business Unlimited, or excuse me, on the Ink Business Preferred, and you're getting the card that you actually want long term too. I mean, I don't know. I think it's a win-win. So I think those are pretty compelling right now. What about you?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. The Ink Cash, I mean, I've been consistent about that card since it was first introduced. That's a no-brainer must-have card for anyone in the points community, and that continues today to be true, more so than ever, as their staples is doing these fee-free cards like every 5 minutes.
Well, not only doing it, but making it super easy. Because I mean, I've lived in an area where I was lucky, and cashiers were happy to let me do a bunch at a time before, but now the ad says 5 per customer per day. I mean, so super easy to take advantage.
So that's awesome. The Ink Unlimited is not as much of a no-brainer for as a card you need to have now that the Freedom Unlimited is better than it, because the Freedom Unlimited also includes 3x at drugstores and restaurants now, and for Chase Travel. So, the Ink Business Unlimited doesn't have that yet, but as a sign-up bonus, it's a no-brainer, and you could always product change it to another Ink Cash afterwards if you need more 5x capacity. So.
And if you don't have a Freedom Unlimited now and you can't get it for one reason or another, you don't have a slot for it, then it
Right.
might make sense to get this because it's not going to add to your 524 count. So it's not going to push you farther away from the other chase cards that perhaps you want if you don't have a spot for that one.
Right.
now.
No, good point. And if you have like something like the Flex or the old Freedom Visa, no, sorry. If you have something like the Flex, there's not really an advantage to also getting the Freedom Unlimited if you have the Business Unlimited, because the 3x bonus on the Freedom Unlimited overlaps with the Flex 3x. So as long as you have one or the other, you have the same opportunities for bonus categories. So,
so it may still fit into the ecosystem for you, the Inc. Business
right.
Unlimited.
In other words, Flex plus Inc. Business Unlimited is equally good as the Freedom Unlimited and the old Freedom Visa, combination.
Right. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where were we? Let's go on here. Let's see. Next question. Matthew asks, thoughts on Avianca LifeMiles new 1.1 cents per mile by mile sale. Is it a good value?
I think it is. I'm glad to argue why it is, because I imagine that Greg will probably argue the other side of this. So I think it's a very good value. I always hesitate to recommend or to consider buying miles speculatively. Right? If you don't know you're going to use them, especially now in a time when who knows what travel is going to look like week to week, month to month, and of course there's the added fact that could be worried about whether or not Avianca is going to stay in business. I'm not particularly worried about that, but it's fair to be concerned about that anyway. I wouldn't buy 600,000 miles right now, thinking that maybe I'll use them in the next few years. But I would probably consider buying like 15,000 or 30,000 or something like that. Especially, again, it kind of depends on your needs. But like for my, in my situation, I live near a small airport where flights are typically expensive. And when I fly, or sometimes when I visit family, I fly to visit them, and they live near a small airport too, both served by United during at least part of the year. So, I mean, it'd be a great deal for me buying the points at 1.1 cent each. Now, I could obviously transfer them from membership rewards or from Capital One, I guess, or from the other one that is escaping me. Thank you points right now. Thank you points. But I would probably be willing to pay 1.1 cent probably in order to keep those points, right? 1.1 cents to keep the points flexible. So I think it's reasonable and a pretty good value. And for international business class, it could be an amazing deal, but we just don't know when you're going to be able to fly those flights again. So, I wouldn't go crazy buying miles, but I think it's a pretty good value. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's a great value. As you said, like you have to be careful about buying them if you don't have a plan for how you're going to use them, because if there's a chance that they'll just sit there, then that's a bad deal. Anything you buy, if you don't actually use it, is a bad deal.
Right.
This
whether it's a coffee mug or miles or whatever else, but you're going to use it because you drink a lot of coffee. Yeah. I mean, like I look at this one and I say, wow, Chicago for me is a 10,000 mile each way flight. And I have friends in Chicago, love to visit them in a normal world. I visit a few times a year. So, I mean, great at 1.1 cents each, $100 each way. That's pretty good. I mean, it's not a bad deal at all. And in fact, business class at 15,000 miles each way is an even better deal. So, I wouldn't be opposed to it, but at the same time, I'm not traveling, so I'm not in a hurry either.
Right. So do you happen to know off the top of your head what they would charge for flights to Hawaii? Wondering what it would cost.
I think it's $22,500. It's $22,500, I think, in economy class and $40 in business class. So not a particularly great deal. Probably, I think, without doing the math, I kind of just did the math, I guess. I think you're better off buying thank you points, right? Because you did the math on that. If you buy thank you points for Turkish miles and smiles, I think it's $386 round trip.
Could be, but which would you rather try to deal with, booking with Life Miles or booking with? It's not a slam dunk answer there.
Well, you got to look it up on the website and see. And if you can find the flights you want on the Turkish website, then you'd want to buy the thank you points. If you can't, and you're not willing to invest the time in having to deal with Turkish, then yeah, Life Miles might make more sense for you.
But I mean, Life Miles doesn't always show all the options either.
So you got to check.
I mean, I think it's probably much better than Turkish as far as showing the options, I would guess. But yeah, no, the reason I'm stuck with so many United miles right now is because trip I had with a whole bunch of other people, we were all flying business class, which had to be canceled. LifeMiles couldn't see the flight I wanted. I think I probably booked it before reading from you that you can sort of reserve it online. So,
right, manually.
yeah.
Kind of book it via email. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
through
I mean,
email,
yeah. I at 1.1 cents each. That's a pretty terrific deal for a mile. That's a good mile. You know what I mean? Like when airlines sell miles, there's some airlines that have better miles to buy than others. And, you know, most airlines, if they sell them for about a penny and a half or even a little bit less, that's usually viewed as like a really good deal. Some of them at 1.8 cents, it's viewed as a great deal. 1.1 cent for a mile that's pretty useful with an award chart that's pretty reasonable. I mean, you're not going to buy miles at a cheaper price than that, apart from manufacturers spending the miles, right? So if you're at all interested in buying rather than MSing, then I think it's worth considering.
Yeah, no, I mean, think about things like that. The fact that LifeMiles often has flights to Europe for 20,000 miles one way.
Right.
That's just an absurdly cheap price. So $200 and some for a one-way flight. That's not basic economy. It books into sort of regular economy, and almost any time you want, not just when a sale happens to be happening. So
right. Well,
that's
and business
really
class,
smoking.
if you do like a
Even
mixed
more,
cabin
even better.
even better, because I mean,
Yeah.
I've shown some examples of mixed cabin where you get to Europe for like 50,000 in business class on the long haul, added together with a long economy class flight. But you know, so on the long haul, 50,000, you're talking what, $550-ish, right? One way for business class. That's terrific.
Right.
But
Plus some taxes and fees, I guess. But not too much because they don't charge fuel surcharges.
Exactly.
So that's all good. What about Avianca bankruptcy? Blah blah.
You know, I don't worry that much about that kind of thing. You know, I always bring up Sears because Sears has been in bankruptcy for like, you know, half my life, I feel like, and they're still kicking. So that doesn't in itself bother me. The LifeMiles program has been very valuable, clearly is a big profit center for them, probably going to outlast the airline if the airline was going to collapse. And I've read that I think their airline got bailed out to the tune of a few $100 million. I can't imagine that their government is going to let the airline fail after they loaned them a couple $100,000. They'd like to get their money back probably. So, they want the airline to survive. So I don't think that the airline is going to collapse. Just my opinion. I'm not an expert. I don't know. Maybe they'll collapse tomorrow. Doubt it.
Right. I agree. That wouldn't be the reason why I wouldn't buy these. The reason I wouldn't buy them is because I'm sitting on a lot of United miles, or, you know, you aren't sure you're going to be flying anytime soon, so you don't want to be sitting on that currency for a long time.
The other reason to not buy them is they did increase their change and cancellation fees quite a bit on international flights. Domestic within the U.S. is still fairly reasonable. Used to be really cheap to cancel a LifeMiles award, but now it's not so cheap anymore. So keep that in mind.
That's a bummer. All right. Moving on. Aaron, do you think Chase will match to the 75K Inc. offers?
Yeah, we already had a report of success in our frequent miler insiders. I'm not sure if it actually got posted yet because I saw it on my phone just a little bit before we got on here and I didn't hit approve yet. But yeah, we had somebody who already successfully matched. They applied for the 50K offer recently.
Whoa.
They've already spent more than $7,500. So they reached out to Chase and Chase said, yeah, and gave them the 25,000 points right away.
I'm stunned by that because all the recent reports, at least on the consumer side, have been they're rejecting all the requests for matching. So maybe the business side is doing it differently. Whoa.
Maybe. I thought that was big news too. Yeah.
So do you think they'll match? So my son signed up a couple years ago for a Inc. Do you think they would match if he contacts them now?
Probably not. Probably not. I mean, and I say, yeah, I think they will because we have a positive data point. But like Greg, until I saw that, I would have answered that question. No, I would have said, no, I don't think they're going to because they seem to have stopped matching stuff based on the consumer side. But it sounds like maybe they are going to match. I would certainly ask. And I always tell people that you get matched 0% of the time when you don't ask. So there's never a harm in asking. I mean, you might as well ask for what you want. You just might get it. So it's worth it.
Yeah. It's usually annoying when the banks handle the business and personal side of things like differently. Like there's usually something good on one side or the other that doesn't somehow translate over, but that's kind of interesting that that it, we're actually happy in this case that
right.
the business side isn't following the other side's
right.
Direction there. All right, next question. I think that says Mrs. S. Got Amex 3+ bonus for referral. Keeping spend organic to be safe. Do you think safe to MS on other Amex bonuses for November and December, given low limits, or would that open door to scrutiny on all accounts?
I mean, yeah, it could open the door to scrutiny on all your accounts. I think we've learned over time, and I think Greg will probably agree with me on this, that in general, Amex doesn't really like it when you MS any kind of a spending bonus. So if it's any kind of a spending, whether it's an authorized user bonus or one of these spend X amount, get X amount of points, they seem to not like when people MS that, or at least if they're going to not like something that you're going to do, that's probably going to be the thing that they don't like. On the flip side, that Marriott Business one, I got the spend 500, get 1,000 bonus points up to 3 times. I mean, it's kind of hard not to MS that. I guess on the other hand, I guess it's kind of hard not to legit spend that at least once anyway between now and the end of the year. But yeah, I mean, I would say don't MS that, but I probably will. What about you, Greg?
Boy, I mean, it's tough. I'm not sure what was meant by given low limits.
I think because of the low spending, like spend 500, get 1,000 bonus points. It's like such a small amount. Is that going to really attract any attention? Yeah, I mean, that was kind of my view on it. I looked at it and I was like, how much am I going to adjust my behavior to accommodate their little spending offer?
Right. I guess I would look at like, how much do you think you're going to spend on that +3 card and calculate how many bonus points you're talking about there. And if it's overwhelming compared to the bonuses on your other Amex cards, then play it safe on the other ones, because why poke the bear?
Why play with fire? But
yeah.
It's probably good advice. Greg's giving you good advice. And I, believe it or not, that's kind of what I was advising you. I was saying that that's what you should do. Just not, one of those.
Just don't do what Nick would do.
Not as I do. Yeah.
Right. Right. All right. Next up is from Saeed, who says he has a Citi Prestige offer for 5x on online purchases until December. Do you see any issue with Simon gift cards counting as online purchases?
I haven't seen any reports as to whether or not they're counting as online purchases. Do I see any issues, problems? I think that in Citi's terms, they have a line in there somewhere about gift card purchases not earning rewards, except they obviously seem to be earning rewards. So if you're asking me, do I think you're going to have a problem? No, I don't think you're going to have a problem. Do I know whether they're going to code at 5x? No, I don't know that either. Do you know, Greg?
I think people have reported that it is coding as 5x. Okay. So even though the AT&T Access More doesn't code it as 5x, I think the Prestige or 3x. Sorry, I think the Prestige is coding those as 5x from what I've heard. But make sure you read up on, if you're not familiar, the problems people have been having lately with those Simon cards and liquidating them. So depending on how you use them, just make sure you're up to date on that. Yeah. All right. Mrs. S has another question. Any airline award sweet spots to get to Dominican Republic, even if just in economy?
I'm a couple. So first, I don't know who flies to the Dominican Republic. So I guess you have to look at the airport and see who flies there. I'm assuming that United, American, and Delta all fly there. So assuming that much, then my thoughts would be first Turkish Miles and Smiles, because that would be 10,000 points one way in economy class or 15,000 each way in business class. Or depending on where you're starting from, if you're flying American and you're starting from someplace that's close-ish to the Dominican Republic, then Qantas might be a good option because they have a distance-based chart for American Airlines. And so you might pay as little as, I think, 8,000 miles each way, maybe. And Iberia is also a really good option because the shortest itineraries with Iberia, and it's cumulative. It's not like British Airways where they're going to charge you separately for each segment. Iberia adds up the distance over the segments. So the shortest itineraries, if you're booking American Airlines flights through Iberia, are 11,000 miles round trip. However, Iberia does not allow you to cancel partner awards with Americans. So, if your plans aren't really firm, I wouldn't book with Iberia because you can't get those miles back. There's no fee you can pay. It's just done. You're going to lose those miles if you don't take the flight. So, and Qantas charges you a fee in terms of points, and I can't remember how many points it is, but it's enough, but it's not super attractive either. So then your other option would be British Airways. If you have direct flights from wherever you're starting, they might be a good option for flying American. So Avios, either British Airways or Iberia, Qantas, those would be your options for American. For United, best option is probably Turkish Miles and Smiles at 10 each way or 15 in business, or then probably Avianca would be the next best bet for United. For Delta, I'm sure Greg will tell you what your best option for Delta is, because I have no idea.
Well, Delta, probably the best option is to see if they're having an award sale, because they often do, especially for economy. My answer is I would look up frequent milers post called Best Ways to Get to the Caribbean/Central America Using Miles, and see what it says.
Well, the other thing is, with airfares being so cheap right now, your best bet might just be to use either points to pay for it, book it through the Chase portal with points, especially if you have the Sapphire Reserve, or Southwest, because their awards are, the number of points is tied to the number of points, or to the cash price of the flight rather. So Southwest or JetBlue both fly to the Dominican Republic, and so they might. I mean, you got so many options for the Dominican Republic. So many options. Yeah. Depends on where you're starting.
Also, an interesting thing. I didn't look for Dominican Republic, but a couple of places I've flown that where there's a couple of places I've flown where prices on JetBlue and Southwest are ridiculously dirt cheap if you fly from Florida. But they're not that cheap if you book from, like, if I book from the Detroit airport on that same carrier through Florida to wherever. So there've been 2 times in the past couple of years where I've separately booked to Florida and then booked JetBlue or Southwest. And in fact, I think in both cases I booked JetBlue one way and Southwest the other, or whatever, because it just worked out better.
That makes sense. That's definitely something to keep in mind, because I've seen dirt cheap airfares within the United States. So you can probably fly to Florida for not very many points. Again, if you're booking through like the Chase portal or something, and then maybe book a flight to the Caribbean from there for like 2,000 or 3,000 points each way with Southwest.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Let's see. What do we have? Scott, my wife and I are looking to travel next October to either Budapest or Prague. Which would you recommend?
I haven't been to Budapest, so I've been to Prague, and I love Prague. Like, Prague is just a city I totally fell in love with. One of the most beautiful cities, maybe the most beautiful city in Europe, in my opinion, anyway. So definitely a place that I went back to shortly after going the first time, because I loved it so much, and holds a special place for me. So I would certainly not hesitate to recommend Prague, but I haven't been to Budapest. Have you been to both?
No, I haven't been to either. But I think it was not last summer, but the summer before, we had booked a new HYATT that was in Budapest. And so I thought we were going to go. We ended up changing our plans, but I did a lot of online research, in those forums where people ask the same exact question. And the sort of general overall answer is do both. People love both of them. People tend to have preferences for one or the other, but it's not consistent. I mean, I think I found slightly more people that like Budapest because I think there was maybe more to do there, but I'm not sure I'm remembering.
I've always wanted to go. That's definitely a place that's on my list too. I remember we were on a train and we were talking to much older German man. We were on our way, I think, probably to go to Prague, and got talking about that. And he said, "Oh, Prague is so special because it's a place that's like untouched, that wasn't destroyed by the wars and that sort of thing." So he said it's much more original, and a lot of the original beauty was there that you don't necessarily see in some other places. Not that you don't see plenty of original beauty in Europe. I mean, surely you do, but Prague, just a kind of a special place to me. So definitely love that. But that you got that HYATT in Budapest that looked gorgeous too. It looked really nice. Now it's more points than it used to be, but I would.
It is. What about Vienna? I mean, so that's another one sort of in that area.
Yeah, I liked Vienna, but it has a different feel. I feel like Prague has more of an Eastern European feel, and Vienna has more of a Western European feel, in the sense that Vienna seems a little bit more touristy, also beautiful, don't get me wrong, but a little bit more touristy. And I feel like Prague feels a little bit more, I don't know. I want to say the word authentic, and that doesn't seem like the best adjective, but maybe it's just a little bit more authentic. I don't know how to say that better. But
yeah.
I like Prague more. I like Vienna too, but I like Prague more.
Good to know. Anyway, I brought it up just because when I thought I was going to Budapest, I had sort of come up with an itinerary that would have taken us to all three. I think by train between them. Yeah.
Can't go wrong.
And Carrie yells Budapest.
Okay, there you go.
Budapest is less touristy.
Even less touristy than Prague. There you go. So that's probably a good reason to like it.
All right. So Carrie is behind the scenes helping us out, and she's been to both, apparently.
There you go. Should have known.
So much all over the world. So yeah, she's the right person to answer this.
True story.
All right. Where are we here? Lance says, "Hello, gents. I've heard many in the miles and points community forewarning that a mileage plan devaluation is likely on the horizon. Will you speculate what that might look like?"
I have no idea. No idea what that might look like. Yeah, I mean, I think everybody kind of expects that it can't get better, right? When they join One World, the reward chart can't get better than it is right now. So I guess it's likely to get a little bit worse. How much worse? No, I have no idea. Do you have any speculation for that?
Yeah, it's really hard to say. I mean, there's no point in speculating. I mean, the main thing that I expect to happen, which I think will be bad, is that they will stop having separate award charts for different partners. And so they're going to have to go to a sort of a mid. They have right now, they have some award charts that are incredible and some that are actually incredibly bad. Mm-hmm. And if they go to sort of an average middle ground, it's not going to be very pretty. And I think we'd, at that point, we'd be lucky if it's as good as American Airlines award chart. So yeah, so I guess you would think, if I were to guess, I would look at American Airlines award chart and say it'll probably be in that range. The one good thing is it's a little frustrating today that you can't book awards across Alaska partners, a single award that covers two. And I expect that to change, where we could book multiple partners together.
Yeah, I mean, that'll hopefully be a nice addition. But I think that the point you just made is actually a really good one, that they're partnering with American, right? Domestically also with American. Code sharing on flights. You're going to be able to earn mileage back and forth, blah, blah, blah. That was announced, I think maybe even before it was announced that Alaska was going to join One World. So yeah, it would seem to me that American wouldn't want people flying American to have more incentive to credit their flights to Alaska than to American. And if Alaska has a much better award chart than American does, then that would seemingly steal some of American's best customers. So I have to imagine Greg's probably right, that American's award chart is probably about as good as it's going to be. Maybe there'll be a sweet spot here or there, but on average, it probably can't be much better than American's award chart.
All right, here's a specific prediction I'm going to ask you to make. Free stopovers on one-way awards. Will they stay or go?
I think Alaska will keep that around. I think Alaska's got to realize that that's a big competitive advantage that makes people interested in their program versus other programs that most programs don't have that. So I think that that does give people some incentive, and especially if the award chart ends up matching American or maybe not even being quite as good as Americans, then the incentive to try to get people to credit to Alaska instead of to American would be that there's something special like that in there. So I think that will stick around. That's my bet anyway. 55,000 points one way to Australia in business class, or 70,000 points one way in first class to Africa going through Hong Kong. I mean, those things aren't going to stick around, probably. The one-way stopover, I think so. You?
All right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I hope so. I think if I had to bet, I guess I would say yes, but I don't have any confidence in that at all. All right, let's see. Aaron is back with, going back to the Amex pop-up, better to spread out spend across all Amex cards or using one and putting like 8K on it within one statement cycle?
I don't know. I think spreading it around, but I don't know that for sure.
I don't know either. So
yeah, maybe
Steven will pipe in the background. He's also hiding behind the curtain. All right. Next question is from Michael. If I got denied for a Chase Ritz Biz card, but I read it wrong. I was like, Chase Ritz Biz card? What's that? Just a Chase Biz card. But called recon to move around credit, would they consider my personal or business credit? Also, any thoughts on using PayPal Key with Amex at Simon Online /in-store?
Okay, so several different questions there. So as far as moving around your credit, if you're asking, I'm not sure exactly what you're asking. If you're asking, can you move credit line from the personal side to the business side, the answer is no. If you're asking, are you going to get approved based on your personal credit or your business credit, they're going to look at your personal credit in order to approve the business card. I think in most cases, correct me if I'm wrong.
I think your first thing was the right answer.
The right answer. They were looking to shift from personal
to
business. You can't do that.
Yeah, you can't. And so that's been a problem for me at times when I've applied for Chase business cards, because I don't have a lot of credit available on that side. And so it's been hard to move it around, especially some cards have a limit how low they can move them.
Mm-hmm. And then in terms of, I thought the word I heard was that Amex was not working that way. So you weren't going to get points on those Simon purchases. So at least that's what I thought I heard. So,
okay. I don't know. But I wanted to say, I don't think there's any way to use PayPal Key in store at Simon, because they need to see a card and there is no card.
No. We reported not that long ago that they were going to start taking digital wallet payments as of, a month or two ago, or maybe even a little bit longer.
Yeah, but you can't put PayPal Key in a digital wallet, is my understanding.
That I don't know. I haven't tried, so you may be right on that. Can you not use it with Google Pay? No? Okay,
I don't think so. No, Google Pay. So they initially advertised Google Pay, but that was only for online Google Pay.
Okay.
So it's specifically not the on your phone kind of thing.
So there you go.
All right, Stephen, going back to the where you should spend in order to get rid of the pop-up, says his guess is to spread it around. If you're getting the pop-up due to no spending, putting 8K spend on one card could raise alarm bells with Amex. So there you go. Don't have any way of knowing personally whether that's good advice or not. I suspect it is.
I would also guess that, because I would guess that the algorithm might be written such that maybe not having spend on one specific card that you opened at some time might actually be the issue, but you'll have no way of knowing which one that is. So if you spread it out, then at least you are more likely to ding the bell wherever it is you need to in order to get approved to go through.
Sounds good to me. Okay. Novi 2000 says, is 12K okay to list as business income on an Amex business card? I have a small side hustle that I could provide tax info for if Amex does a financial review, looking to get the Bonvoy business card.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I mean, it definitely should be. Current pandemic aside, because who knows in the current pandemic environment, but I haven't heard stories of people having a harder time with Amex business cards. So, and historically, I've known people that have gotten approved with much less in revenue or even no revenue.
Right. So they, a little while back, they added like where you had to put in $1,000
That's
or
right.
more,
You're
I
right.
think.
You're right.
So assuming that's still there, I certainly used to, for some businesses, put in 0 and got approved. Since then, I know, like, my son has put in 1,000 and it's been approved. So yeah, that's definitely no problem at all.
12 would be no issue.
Right.
For 12. Yep.
All right. Next is from Champ. Hey guys, currently at 524, will be 424 December of 2021. Am I losing by holding off on all credit card applications until then for another Chase card?
If you had to ask, you already know the answer. Of course you are. Of course you are. I mean, like if you look at, and maybe it's worth it, maybe it's not for you, depending on how many other business cards you can do. But, look at the different personal offers out there, add those points up, and there's your opportunity cost in terms of, however many you think you might otherwise apply for. Is it worth losing out on all of those to wait around for something else? I mean, and I'm not trying to judge your answer and tell you that because of that, you shouldn't wait to get under 524. Maybe you want to be under 524. I'm not going to argue with your logic, but if you're asking me, are you losing out? Of course you are.
Yeah. So, and I'm just going to add that if you're waiting just because Chase tends to have great sign-up bonuses, and so you want to get under so you could get in on the sign-up bonuses, I'd say that's a losing game. Like, because you are going to be missing out on a lot of other offers, and you're missing out on membership rewards and Citi Thank You and also kind of miscellaneous other things. If, however, there's a card or a couple cards that you want because it's sort of what you need to play the game. Like, so the chasing cash, you want to get in on 5X and you don't have that yet. Or in my case, like I waited to get under 524 so that I could get the HYATT card because I wanted to manufacture top tier globalist status, and that's the only way to do it. Those kind of things could obviously make it worth it to you, even though you'd be missing out on a lot of points. Now, all that said, I didn't feel like I missed out on that much in waiting to get under 524 because I still hit like business cards hard. So I got a lot of points with business cards. The biggest regret was that I didn't jump on that Hilton Aspire first year free offer when it was available for 15 minutes.
You had to think on your feet on that one. Yeah. I mean, I think, like Greg said, there are a lot of business cards out there that are worth looking at. When Grant asked earlier about cards we're interested in, that Wyndham business card, that one looks pretty interesting to me too. And, you look at a card like that has a great bonus, not going to add to 524. There's so many different Amex business cards out there. You got Citi business, there's an Aviator business. So there's a lot of cards to keep you busy. You don't necessarily have to not get any cards between now and then, and maybe those cards are enough for you and you want to get under 524, that's fine. It's just a matter of what your goals are.
Yep. All right, sounds good. Mrs. S says, can you have more than one personal HYATT card? I know Marriott has restrictions.
No. Right?
Done. That's right. No, you can't. Apparently there was one brief moment in time when it was possible, and so there are people that have more than one, but no, you can't. Okay, let's see. Mohammed says, does JetBlue have an award chart for partners like Emirates?
They do. I don't even remember how I found it when I went looking for it. They do. It's not a particularly good value. And I think if I remember correctly, it might have been based on destination or something. I think they do anyway. I know Emirates has one for JetBlue. I'm pretty sure they do. When it comes to Hawaiian, it's based loosely on the cash prices, and I'm not really sure what the basis is on those.
Yeah.
Any more on that?
Yeah, I can't remember details, except I remember that when I've looked at it, I've been very disappointed by it. Like I remember deciding you only use JetBlue points for JetBlue flights, and so He's probably asking because there's the 100K JetBlue
Right.
offers out right now, and that's amazing. But if you're not going to be flying JetBlue, having 100,000 JetBlue points isn't worth very much. It'd be kind of fun to say, you know, okay, this would get you sort of the equivalent of 50,000 miles for flying Hawaiian or something like that. But
you know, maybe it's not. I don't remember what the relative cash value was towards Hawaiian paid flights, but you know, let's guess that it was 1.5 cents each, which might be overly generous. I don't know.
There's no way.
No, you don't think so? It wasn't that high?
No, I would have been interested in it then because
Yeah.
that would be pretty good value. So I'm guessing like 0.7, 0.8 cents. So
Yeah.
still, I mean, you're probably talking about like
$700 or $800
or $800 worth of,
which might get you round trip to
flights,
Hawaii.
maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. All right, so that's something that we should look into.
Yeah, there you go.
See if we're right. Okay, Ken is next. Any experience using TAP miles to fly United? TAP is having a promo that gets you 148,000 miles for approximately 0.6 cents per point, and is Starlines.
I saw this advertised on a boarding area blog, like I shouldn't say advertised, written about on a boarding area blog. One of the European bloggers that I feel like constantly covers the TAP promos, and I was marginally interested for a few minutes, and then it kind of floated back out of mind. I have no experience using TAP miles. I'm not sure what they charge on United. I do remember looking at them in the past, though, because they've run a few of these deals now where you could buy a lot of points for not a lot of money. And I feel like a couple of times I've been like, oh, that's actually kind of interesting, maybe, both for potentially some Star Alliance flights. But if I remember correctly, tell me if I'm making this up, but remember correctly, they partner with Emirates too, I think. And I seem to remember thinking that they had some okay values for flying Emirates. So
I don't have any idea about that. But what I do know, if the reward chart is only, let's say, 30% worse than lifemiles, then, and I'm making that up, I have no idea, then, it's probably a better deal than buying lifemiles. So that's kind of interesting, and it sounds like it's worth looking into.
Yeah, I remember I looked into it on a previous one at some point, and I think I intended to write a post, and then I don't think I actually did write a post about it. So it's worth looking into again. I thought I saw that question actually pop up, and I thought, oh, that's one that I would really like to look into again, because they definitely have sold points really cheaply a few times now.
Yep. Is this the one? I know that there was one deal out where you could not only buy points cheaply, but you also could get elite status. Oh no, that was something else. I remember now. That was One World, so that wouldn't be this. Anyway, okay. Eddie is next with, does the Amex limit for number of cards include both personal and business?
Yes.
Yep. The one thing I'm trying to figure out is there have been some data points suggesting that Amex might have moved back to their 5 credit card limit so they had moved to 4 credit card limit during the earlier days of the pandemic, if I remember. And so they might have moved back, but I need to get more data to find out if that's true. If anyone happens to know of any good information out there about that, please let us know. Okay, next is, I'm just checking the time, we're good. Next is from Paul. Hey guys, I have a reluctant Ramsey subscribe. Wait, what is this?
I'm a reluctant Dave Ramsey subscriber. Is that what he's saying?
Subscribe player 2 that's scared of credit cards. Okay.
Dave Ramsey person, yeah. Okay.
However, I had a breakthrough recently and convinced them to get a few credit cards. What cards should I tell them to get?
What cards should you tell them to get? The ones that help you achieve the goals that you have in terms of travel or rewards. I mean, if you're looking to convince that person that they want to be a credit card person, ideally the cards that offer rewards that are going to mean something to them, whether that's business class flights or a whole bunch of cash back that they're like, oh, wow, this is actually kind of nice. If you're looking to kind of bring them into this world, then I would say that it really depends on what they want, right?
Yeah, and I think it also kind of depends on how is it going to work. So, for example, if player 2 is going to let you do all the work to book things for them, then then you might be okay getting cards that have, like membership rewards points. Where getting the great value is possible, but not really something a beginner would know how to do. But if they're going to be managing the points themselves, then you might prefer something like Chase points, or even Capital One, where it's really easy to get sort of fixed but decent value.
Right. And if you aren't sure you're going to be traveling for a while, it might be kind of hard to convince somebody that these points are all that exciting. So then, maybe you start with a cash back bonus, because if you find a card with like a $500 cash back bonus after meeting purchases that you would otherwise meet anyway, and you can be like, hey, look, now we got this $500 that we didn't have for buying the same stuff we were going to buy anyway, anyway you slice it. So, those types of things might appeal to somebody too. So hard to say,
Yeah.
hard to tell you this is the right card, because it really kind of depends on your situation.
Right. And, also along those lines, like the Sapphire Preferred, since you can go to, you can wipe out charges from a grocery store, at least through April. It's too bad that 80K offer just disappeared, because that would have been a great one. I think it's still a good one at 60K. It's just depressing to think of signing up for a card that just minutes ago was 20K more the bonus.
Right.
All right. Next is from Devin. Just canceled a Chase business card. How long should I wait before applying for another Chase business card? I currently have 4 opened.
I don't think I would probably tie that to when you canceled, but rather to when you last opened. That would be my opinion. I wouldn't be particularly concerned about when you last canceled. If you last opened a Chase card a month ago, probably a month ago is fine. If you last opened a Chase card 2 weeks ago, I'd probably wait a little bit longer, because they have been a little tighter on approvals over the last few months, loosening up, it seems, some, but had been anyway a little bit tighter. So I don't know. Do you think any differently on that?
No, it sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
All right. Paul says, also, Nick, will you get an iPhone this year?
Definitely not. Not in a million years. I don't even understand the Apple people. Okay. I know I'm going to offend like half of our readers by saying that. I don't even get the Apple thing. I know that people love Greg loves his iPhone. He went back to his iPhone. I know people like it. I don't get it. I don't understand. There's nothing that appeals to me about an iPhone or about Apple products in general. I can't handle the Mac that has no right click button. You're like, I need a right click button. I don't get it. It just doesn't compute. So,
yeah.
So yeah, no.
Well, Nick and I have talked about this before. For me, it's not really the hardware or the iOS in particular, but it's who you hang out with.
Yeah.
So everybody in my sphere, except for Nick and Steven, have iPhones, and it's so darn convenient to have the same thing. So you can airdrop huge video files to each other, so it doesn't take up any bandwidth, and files transfer pretty much instantly. You can.
Do you do much of that? Like, do you frequently?
Yeah.
Like yeah.
Yeah. When traveling with others and my wife, we frequently share files that way, and photos, and so yeah. That's very, very common. Another thing that's fun. This doesn't happen as often, but when we're at like we were at an Airbnb a few weeks ago, I signed in to the Wi-Fi using the long password. There was all these numbers and digits and stuff, and then my wife goes to sign in, and it just pops up on my thing. Do you want to share the password with your wife? And I click the button, and automatically she's on. So there's little things like that just make, if others have the iPhone, you're going to be missing out if you don't also. But
Greg always says that. I know that's what he says. But out of my social circle and friends and family, like, I had a hard time thinking of 5 people I knew that used iPhones. So, and I think Greg, on the other hand, had a hard time thinking of 5 people apart from me and Steven anyway that don't use iPhones. So it probably depends on who it is you hang out with. But no, I will not be switching to iPhone anytime soon.
So Steven says, at least Android users don't feel the need to love every text you receive.
I hate that. It drives me crazy. I do have a couple of friends that have iPhones, and I'm like, you loved an image, just either comment or don't comment at like the little lovey thing that comes up. It's like, oh, so and so loved it. I don't know, you Apple people. I don't understand you.
Oh, see, I like that because when someone sends something and you want to sort of acknowledge it, but you don't really have anything to say, so much better to just like click the like or love or whatever instead
rather
of
than have to interact on a human level
instead of typing LOL.
Right. See, I mean, that's just a fundamental difference. Either you like that or you don't like that. And Stephen and I are in the same camp on
that. All right. Let's see. So Stephen says, but then we get a notification making it seem like you've replied, but you haven't. Yeah. So if on the iPhone you hit love or like, and you're on an Android, what you get is
it says Greg loved a photo,
and then it quotes everything you just said.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. It's just super annoying. And I'm not so brand loyal on the phone side of things. Google is pulling me in on the Pixel phones because I do really like those. But before that, I haven't been so brand loyal to one Android. I've owned tons of different flagship Android phones: Samsung, HTC, LG, OnePlus. I've owned flagship phones from a number of different brands and enjoyed them for different reasons. So it's been fun to kind of switch back and forth and enjoy some of the cool innovations, different manufacturers. I would not enjoy being stuck with whatever Apple decides I should have instead of having like some choice to be able to figure out. These guys have a.
So Carrie gets the last word today. It's 1:00.
Okay. All right.
And she says, yeah, but you also thought Prague was better. And so, yeah.
Touche.
Also, without having tried the alternative.
No, I've touched an iPhone at some point before. It made me physically
you've
ill.
Seen pictures of Budapest. All right, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you, everybody. It's been fun, and we'll see you 2 weeks from now at the next one.
Cheers.
All right. Now I'm trying to